not making someone else's life better, then you're wasting your time.
Don't cry to give up, cry to keep going. Don't cry to quit. You already in pain, you already hurt. Get a reward from it.
Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not point the finger saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Because every day is a new day. Every moment is a new moment. So now you got to go out and show them that I'm a different creature now.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
The AI revolution is here. AI agents are about to start replacing whole teams, and Google search is slowly dying. The world is gonna change forever, but I don't want you to be left behind.
So if you're a startup, what is the most disruptive thing you could do? Well, you could take a 3-person team to disrupt a 30,000-person team and blow a hole right in the side of that $3 trillion economy. That's the big risk. So whether the risk comes from here or whether it comes from the Chinese, I think what you're seeing is that if these agents can scale, the OpEx, the actual load of making something will go down by an order of magnitude. And that is, and maybe even 2 orders of magnitude. That is incredibly disruptive because the existing incumbents cannot compete with that cost scale.
So my advice to you all is ride the wave, but ride it every day. Don't view it as episodic and something you can end, but understand it and build on it. Each and every one of you has a reason to use this technology. If you're an artist, a teacher, a physician, a business person, a technical person, if you're not using this technology, you're not going to be relevant compared to your peer groups and your competitors and the people who want to be successful. Adopt it and adopt it fast.
So to that point, we've just launched Sheldon A-3, which is the next stage in the evolution of AI. And I'm going to take you through right now exactly how easy it is and how you can deploy agents today to start getting ahead and moving forward in both your professional and personal lives. So one of the incredible new capabilities of our agents is the capability for each of your individual agents to create unique interfaces and full applications for that agent, for the type of tasks that they're doing. So you aren't limited just to text interactions anymore. So as your agents are working in, whether it's running a section of your business or whatever the case is, when they completing these tasks each day, each week, whatever the case is, you can manage that, interact with that, view that in any kind of application interface that you'd like. And I'm going to show you exactly how that works and how easy it is to create that now. And so as part of the launch, to start creating a community where we can see we'd like to see the type of applications and workflows and those types of things that you getting our agents to build and execute for you. So we're running a competition just for May, where we'd like you to show us the types of interfaces, workflows that you're building with the agents. And there's obviously going to be some prizes included. So if you're interested and you'd like to start taking advantage of this new capability today, head off to our webpage and you'll be able to subscribe, and you'll see there's the reduced prices just for the next couple of days. So it's just for May. And yeah, we'd like to start seeing the incredible things that you guys are building with our agents. I'm also going to showcase quite a few of the workflows and interfaces, applications that I personally have built and am deploying to start getting those creative juices flowing. So I'm going to take you through all of that right now, as well as all the new features, the upgraded tools, capabilities. So let's have a look at that. Let's see what that all looks like. So this is an example of a custom interface that I asked a maintenance agent to create for me. So this agent, whenever there's issues, the agent reviews work orders, maintenance plans, etc., and then suggests updates, changes, etc. So instead of just getting, a massive stack of, you can imagine pages and pages of text, which is a pain to try and figure out and read what's changed, what's updated, should it be approved, should it not be. This agent has now created an interface where whenever there's changes to work orders, it then lists the work orders that need to, or that are proposed for update. And then you can actually review, okay, so for example, I can click on one of the proposed updates, and then you can actually see exactly, and it highlights exactly what's changed, what's added, and so on. And then you can, go ahead and click on one of the changes. So for example, if we click here, you can see, okay, cool. So the proposed change is now there's a specific measurement. So instead of just getting, pages and pages of text, now you can get your agents to display the work that they're doing for you in whatever format you like, so that you can efficiently manage, interact with them, engage with them, etc. So let's have a look at how we can actually create a custom interface for one of your agents. So earlier today, I was watching the emergency debate on artificial intelligence and agents on the Diary of a CEO's podcast. And there was actually an interesting example of an application or interface that you can now build with AI. So what I've actually done is I actually pre-recorded that snippet, and I've also then added some additional features, which I thought would be quite interesting. And I've actually then gone ahead and shared it with this agent so I've saved the file on my OneDrive for Business, and then I actually have now shared that video with this agent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually then ask this agent to go off and build that application for us while we're watching the video that the agent is using with the instructions for the application. So I'm going to get him to, or her in this case, to start actually going and building that application. So you'll see she will now, retrieve the file and so on. And then let's go ahead and actually watch what those instructions look like.
Built one last night, by the way.
An internal tool, or
I built an application to track how my kids earn pocket money.
Amazing.
So I just told it that I wanted to track the tasks that are happening around the house and assign a value to them.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to, at the end of the week, push a button and get a summary of how much to pay each child for their pocket money.
We are so screwed.
And within 15 minutes, it had created this application. And it was amazing. Like, you could toggle between, like, here's the place where you have the kids, and here's the weekly reports, and here's the how much per task, and you can tick off the tasks or remove tasks or add tasks. So then I now have this application which took 15 minutes of just talking about what I wanted. And now I have an application to run the pocket money situation in the house. And this is, by the way, it's something, having run an IT agency years ago, that's something that we would have charged £5,000 to £10,000 to create, or $5,000 to $10,000 US to create.
And how much time?
So I think let's build on that a little bit. Let's create a family dashboard that the family can use to visualize and help plan their week. So let's make the first tab a calendar week view showing each of the tasks that are due on the various days. But then let's also add the capability that when we're adding family members, let's also be able to add adults. So we can then add the parents, and then instead of just only adding tasks for the week, let's also let's create the capability to add events. So then we can actually create a full interactive dashboard so that the family can, plan their week, see what's coming up and so on. So for the events, let's obviously include a location, time, and so forth. But then let's also have the option to then set which parent is responsible to, take the family to that event, as well as tick who's joining the event. Then for the weekly reports, obviously it's only the children and whichever of their tasks earned pocket money. But then let's include, how many tasks were assigned, per child, how many were completed, and then obviously the total pocket money for the week. Okay, yeah, let's see how that looks. Yeah, let's take it from there. Okay, so the agent has now gone off and it's busy building that full application. Obviously, it's quite in depth, so it's taking its time. So there you can see also, as your agents are executing tasks, there's a dashboard at the bottom. You can just see, okay, cool. In this case, it's first analyzed the contents of some files. And then in this case, it's retrieved, it will just be the default interface. So if we actually go off, I forgot to show you. So if you go to your custom interfaces, you can see the custom interfaces that this agent has created and can work with. So I have 3 custom interfaces. If it wasn't obvious, this presentation is an interactive presentation creator that this agent created for me. Okay, there it's gone off and finished. So let me just quickly go back to finish what I was saying there. So then, okay, that's updated. Now you can see it's added the family task and event dashboard, which is just created. So you can, switch between your interfaces and so on. So whenever your agents update one of these interfaces or creates one, just in the chat window, just gives you a summary. Okay, cool. This is what I've done. So let's have a look at that. Let's see what this interface looks like. Let's see how close it got first attempt. Okay, that looks pretty cool. So we've got the week. So we've got tasks. No tasks, fun. Time to relax. That's fun. Events. We can add some events. So let's add some people. Categories, reports. So let's see. Add new member. Add Craig. I'm an adult. Confirm. Cool. And let's add child. Let's say Victoria. It's my standard child name. So now we've got some people. Let's maybe just add a task. I don't know. Do some stuff. Let's assign it to a child. Let's make it, I don't know, let's say it happened in the past. Let's make it $10 for that squeegees. Let's assume it's completed. Cool. That was quite nice, actually. It's actually came out very nice. Maybe just as you creating these applications, if you don't explain, let's say, exactly how you want it to work or something's not working, again, you can just ask your agent, please fix the application that you've created or something's not working. The agents automatically save any error logs or things like that your agents then have access to. So even if you're not a technical person or a programmer, don't worry. Just tell your agents what you want or tell them what's working, not working, and they'll figure it out for you. But this came out really nicely. Let's see if the events work. Let's add an event. Let's also pull that to a whole bunch of typing. Location. All right, let's do something random. Okay, let's make it for tomorrow. Let's give it a time. Yeah, whatever. It's fine. 11 a.m. So let's add an adult me. Let's see if we can add both. I haven't added any categories, so okay. And let's see. Cool. That looks quite cool. So we can see who's joining. That was my randomly typed information. So this came out really nicely. I'm not gonna spend too much time playing with this, but you get the point. So you can, as you saw now, I didn't even, if you don't want to type out the whole description in this case, I literally just took that video that we just watched and then shared it with the agent and said, as you can see here, watch the video, extract the instructions, and then build the application in this specific slot. So that's literally how easy it is to start creating these custom interfaces or unique applications. And in this case, typically what you would then do is create a workflow for this agent, for example, to read your emails every morning and see if the school has, sent any emails on sporting events coming up, etc. And then the agent can automatically update your dashboard or calendar or whatever the case is. So, it's always live, etc. So yeah, this actually came out really nicely. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what's next on the agenda. So let's go back so we can hide this custom interface now, and we can go back to the presentation. So this is another example of an application that I created with one of my agents. So obviously there's been a lot of hype around the JFK assassination documents that have been released. But if any of you have been to the website, the documents are literally, I think it says there, nearly 2,500 documents with no titles, no information. It's literally the document number and no other information. So what I got this agent to do is actually go and read those documents and then create a title for the document and a few other categories. So an abstract, which government agencies are mentioned or involved in that document. Is there any agents or which people are in the various documents? I asked it to create a class and various other things. So in this case, it's literally created an application for me now, where I can now, you can search for a specific document title if you're looking for something. Also added, for interest's sake, if the document discusses the mafia or not. And then you can actually then in this application go ahead and view the document. So I can, let me pick one that's not massive to download. Let's see, let's choose a random one. It's all massive. Okay, here's a small one. And then you can actually go ahead and view the document in this application. So it then downloads it from the website. And what's quite cool is you can even mark it up and then print it or whatever the case is. So this is just another example of the complete application that one of our agents built for us. Some additional notes on the custom interfaces. In the standard template for the custom interfaces, we've included some of the capabilities and functions of the main application. So this includes the capability to take standard text in Markdown format and convert that into styled HTML. So when your agents are executing the various tasks, etc., and this needs to incorporate into one of your custom interfaces, they will handle the tasks as per normal. And then when it renders and is displayed for you, it will include headings, lists, tables, whatever the case is. And I'll show you some examples of each of those. We've also included the creation of diagrams, which is in Mermaid syntax for those of you that are interested. So again, your agents will return normal or plain text with some syntax styling. And then this will render for you, be displayed for you in your custom applications as charts, graphs, mind maps, etc. We've also added the capability to interact with the camera. So you can take photos the same way that you can take photos with your agents when asking them questions. And as I mentioned earlier, all the data is automatically integrated, saved, and accessible to your agent. Then in terms of styling, we also included the same library or bootstrap styling with our custom styles as the main interface. So your agents will be able to make your custom interfaces look and feel similar to the rest of the application. And then for those of you that want to add the capability, you can also add the reading buttons to a specific container. So that might be used if you maybe, so I have an agent that looks at my calendar, and then before each meeting or key events, it creates like meeting preparation notes for me. So then that can, for example, the high level bullet points can just be read out so that I'm aware of some key points, ahead of meetings. And then I can obviously dig into those as I need to. So let's, for example, maybe we can add the photo taking capability to that family dashboard application. So my query or question to my agent is I ask the agent and explain which of my custom interfaces to update. So I've asked the agent to please update the family dashboard interface and then add the functionality to create or when creating and editing tasks and events to be able to take photos now, and then those get saved with those events. So I'm going to ask ask our agent to update that interface. We're not on that interface now, but it'll go and update that interface for us, and then it should have that additional capability. While the agent's going off doing that, let me show you examples of what I mean around, taking text and creating the styled HTML. So, for example, this, what you see here, this flowchart is actually generated from text. So what I actually did in this custom interface is I created the capability to actually then edit these diagrams. So for example, here you can see what the text looks like. So when if your agent is executing some workflow, some task for you, where they need to generate a flowchart, what they'll return is something like this, which then gets transformed into the diagram. Let me show you some examples of what each of those look like. So you've obviously got your headings, you can have your lists, tables again. So when your tables render in your custom interfaces, it'll have the same features. So you'll be able to copy the table, you'll be able to make edits in the tables, checklists, again, interactive, and then you can also clicking and dragging, copy the checklist, and it'll include whatever updates you make. You'll also be able to render images. Again, this is from a URL. It's not the actual, full data of the image. On the custom interfaces, you can generate and display mathematical equations. You've already seen the flowcharts as an example of a graph with a line plot, as well as a bar chart. Your interface can include mind maps, Gantt charts, pie charts, quadrant charts, sequence diagrams, class diagrams, and then if you really want to get fancy, you can do what's called a C. Okay, the agent finished that. Let me go back. It's called a C4 diagram, but it's a full system diagram. Again, which your agents can create and render for you. They can display software blocks, and then obviously, your standard links, which are clickable and will go to wherever those links point to. So yeah, all of this capability then is included by default in the template for the custom interfaces, which your agents then build on based on whatever interface or application they're creating for you. They'll also automatically add any additional styling requirements that isn't part of the standard style library. So let's go back and let's have a look at the update. So that the agent has answered and it said that it's added this new capability. So let's check if that works. Let's see, so we can go to our family application. Let's see how it looks. So let's just go to a random task. Cool. So we can take a photo. Let's see. Yep, it works. Obviously, the only camera now is me. So I can take the picture. Let's see. Work. Well, not too many now. Okay. And yeah, cool there. So now it's included that picture. So that's just something fun I thought of. You could maybe to inspire the children or whatever to complete their chores or whatever the case is. You could maybe get them to create some competition around taking photos to show how the various chores were completed. But yeah, it's just an example. And let's see if it works for the events. Yeah, cool. So you could obviously, if you'd have the application open on your phone, and then you'd take a picture of something fun, and link that to the event. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, and as I said, before, now this obviously then saves, and any interactive or dynamic data, such as events and things, whatever the case is in your application, it automatically gets handled for you. So yeah, that's it on the custom interfaces. So let's have a look at exactly how you can create agents, deploy agents, and get them to link and interact with your live documents on your various cloud servers, etc. So if you go to your account, the account page, then you can authenticate and link your various accounts or drives, email addresses, and so on with your agents. So we've included Microsoft Personal, Microsoft Business, Microsoft Email, Google Drive, Google Email, SharePoint. You can also link your private domain server. So you can type in the server details there. So your agents can then interact with those various storage systems, those various documents, files, and so on. But what we've done is you can decide which files, which folders you want specific agents to have access to. So, for example, I'm just showing Sheldon here. So then you can go to the File Explorer, and whichever of your drives you've authenticated and linked to the application, you can choose that and actually then navigate through the files and just select, okay, cool, I want Sheldon in this case to be able to interact with this file and interact with those folders, and I hit the update permissions button. Then Sheldon can read look inside that folder, see what files are in there, if he needs to read them, update them, or whatever the case is. You can also then, if you ask the agent to create a file for you or copy a file or move a file, it can then move them into that folder. So it's literally as easy as that. And then to create your agents, all you need to do is go to Sheldon and type in exactly, what you want the agent to do. Is it an admin assistant or a technical engineering maintenance assistant, whatever the case is? You can just type in exactly, what you want the agents to do. Click the Create Agents button, and those agents will then be created for you. You can also, all your agents, including Sheldon, can search the internet. They can interact with your files. So maybe something that's quite common is just pop in your role profile, for example. This is my roles and responsibilities at the company. Please create agents to help me with, these points. So then Sheldon can go ahead, read that file and build agents specific to whatever you need, whatever your use case is, and so forth. Whatever questions you have or anything you're unsure of, you can also just ask Sheldon to explain the various features, tools, whatever the case is, by hitting the interface help button. And then Sheldon will explain to you exactly, what to do, what your agents can do, how to deploy them, and so forth. There's also a help menu where you can go to the help information, where there's the various sections, categories, just to give you some idea of the various capabilities and so on. And then again, you can just ask Sheldon. So let's say, for example, if we want some information on the agent tools, we don't know what they can do, you can also just then hit the Ask Sheldon button, and then Sheldon will go off and explain to you exactly, what the tools are and so forth. So yeah, you can see Sheldon's gone and listed all the various tools that the agents can use with some explanations. But I'm going to take you through all of that now. But yeah, any other questions you have, or if you have if you want to, dig deeper into the various tools, capabilities, etc., you can just ask Sheldon, and Sheldon will go and explain exactly to you how that tool works, where you can use it. Sheldon also has access to an overview of the agents you've deployed. So, you might say, if you maybe have a marketing agent, you might explain the image creation, editing features, etc. So any questions, Sheldon is there to guide you through this new technology, how to deploy AI, and so forth. So let's have a look at exactly how the tools work, how your agents go ahead when they complete their tasks. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. So this is a simplified flow chart, which shows what the agents are doing in the back end, how they're executing the various tasks for you, and the various tools that they have available to them. This is probably a 8-hour minimum discussion. So I'm going to just go through it fairly high level. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments, or, send us an email and we can, explain things further. But again, any specific questions you have on the various tools or interactions with the agents, you can ask Sheldon, and, Sheldon will explain to you exactly what's happening or how you can use your agents. So basically, a sort of high level explanation of what's happening on the back end. When a query or question comes through, whether it's the way we've been asking questions, through the normal chat interface, or it could be a scheduled task that the agent has to execute for you, or it could be a triggered task. So your agents can also trigger one of the other agents that you've created, tasks and workflows based on whatever your requirements are. What the agent then does is it takes that query and then dynamically creates the system instructions, prompt structure, tool definitions based on what is required to complete the task, based on whichever models the various tools are using. So we've integrated to all the OpenAI, all the Google Gemini, and all the Anthropic models. And based on whatever the latest best model is at completing the various type of task, we then dynamically update and switch to whatever the latest best task is. So in the back end, the agents are building the prompt structure and tool definition for whichever model is being used, as well as what is available to that agent. So just for an example, your agents can update various types of files, so Excel, JavaScript, HTML, whatever the case is. But maybe you haven't shared any of those types of files with the agent. So then when it's building the tool definitions, etc., and then it excludes that tool and that capability from the agent. And maybe then you search a folder. So you've asked the agent, please look in this folder and, look for the latest, invoices. And then, when the agent looks inside and, gets the information of the files in that folder, then again, they'll dynamically update and recreate the tools with any additional capabilities that are required, as well as, listing the file names to make sure that, the agent calls the correct file and that type of thing. So once the agent has, created those structures, then the first step in the process is obviously like retrieving any information that is needed to complete the task. So this could be, looking at a shared folder, looking through a bunch of files that are relevant to the task. The agents we've implemented a custom Google search engine. So your agents can then, search the internet, and again, in a separate, an agent with a specific setup and, system and prompt structure to execute web, to handle the web search or returned information gets triggered. And then that agent will, generate a report of what's actually relevant to the query. As well as your agents can then, search through your emails and look for specific information. Then if it's, the more complicated tasks, your agents can then execute like a reasoning process, if you want, where they can then look through their memories and see, is there any relevant memories to this task? So maybe there's a set or a process defined on how this task should be completed. So if I go back to like maintenance engineering, when you're completing a problem solving, there's generally specific steps, or it's a predefined process that is the best approach to completing the task. So the agent could, for example, look through their memories and find that. And then the agent will create a plan with individual steps and objectives and instructions, and it'll work through those, steps one by one to complete the task at hand. And then obviously for our enterprise customers where we've linked external databases such as SAP, the agents then can also, if I'll stick with a maintenance example, can then read the maintenance history on, let's say, a specific piece of equipment or over a specific interval, work center, whatever the case is. And then again, it'll generate a report based on that information. So your primary agent manages several agents that then work simultaneously to handle this, the information retrieval process. So if let's go back to reading files, for example, when you want to, read information from documents, that information, the agent can't be creative. It shouldn't, fill in the gaps, for example. So that specific model and setup is, optimized to only find, it returns information verbatim from the documents based on the context and query that the, main agent has passed forward. And what's quite nice about, or the benefit of working that way is if we think of that JFK documentation example where you have to, it's reading dozens and dozens and dozens of files. How that looks is your primary agent says, go and read all those files. And then, 20 agents get triggered all at the same time to then read those, massive docs. Some of them are several, 100 pages, for example. And then it only returns exactly, what is required to complete the actual task. So then the information that is returned to the agent that's actually completing the task is what is actually required. So for example, maybe reading emails is a nice example. Generally you'll have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails, which is massive amounts of text, when maybe you're only looking for the school email, and in the school email, you're only looking for, the events that are planned coming up. So instead of the main agent, sitting with a whole bunch of information that isn't necessary to complete the task, all that gets returned to that main agent is, this is the email, this is when it was from, or this is who it is from, this is when it was sent, and here's exactly what you're looking for. So once the agents then have, retrieved all the information that they need to complete the task, then they'll head off to actually use that information, as well as, whatever your question is, to complete that task for you. So again, they'll dynamically build the possible tool structure and instructions to complete the various tasks. So your agents can generate reports, diagrams, graphs, charts. They can create images for you, edit images for you. They can create, edit, copy, move files for you. Then in the workflow builder section, which I'm going to take you through as well, we've got a few additional tasks where when the workflow is completed, then the completed or finished workflow, finished task can then be used to maybe trigger another agent's task. So for example, like I said earlier, I have an admin agent, which, manages my calendar and does a meeting preparation for me, for example. Let's say I was back in engineering, and in the morning meeting, we had a specific breakdown, a specific problem, and then obviously I'll trigger an agent to go and, solve that problem, etc. then what I would do with that completed workflow is say, okay, please send that to my admin agent in order and get that agent to then add it to my meeting preparation notes for the weekly fault analysis meeting or whatever the case is. Then what we've also included in the workflow builder is the ability to actually then generate and, if you like, send emails. So we've only included it there so that it's, you know, more controlled, more structured, etc. You can test it. You know, your agents aren't just going to be randomly sending emails. If you want to include the capability to send emails, you know, in that output section, you define, you know, who you want the email to get sent to, which of your accounts you want it to be sent from, and so on. And in that workflow section on the outputs, you can also then take those completed workflows and then use that to update your custom interfaces. A really useful example of how you can use this capability is creating long-term advanced deep research, where your agents then aren't limited to, you know, a specific time frame to research or, you know, generate a report or whatever the case is on a specific subject. In these workflows, which then can get triggered based on schedules or can be triggered from other agents, or you can manually run them. It can take that completed report on whatever, you know, you're researching and creating a report on, and then send it across to your interface where you're interacting and building this research report. So, you know, for example, there might be information that you're waiting from a colleague, you know, they're handling a certain section of a specific project or report. And as that comes through, you know, then you keep working on whatever your report or, you know, your deep research project is. So yeah, that's how you can then interact with your custom interfaces as well as your scheduled and, you know, autonomous workflows. So then once the agent has, you know, completed whatever the task deliverables are, then the agent will evaluate that and see, you know, did I meet the requirements that were initially set out? If not, it'll, you know, it can go back, make some changes, you know, fix up whatever the sections are and so forth. And yeah, and if it's correct, then the agent just returns the response. And again, maybe just without going too deep into the weeds, each of these sections also trigger sub-agents with specific system instructions, context, setup, etc. So that when you, for example, evaluating, is the task completed against what the initial expectation was, I think the best way to maybe explain that is to, again, think of it as a person. So if you can imagine you've spent 2-3 weeks generating this full solution to a problem, building a report, doing your data research, etc. And then somebody asks you, you know, is your report correct and does it meet the requirements? Obviously, you're going to say yes, because in your context, all that you're thinking about is exactly what you've done. It's, you know, that's front of your mind. You don't think, let's say, outside the box, and you won't be critical of, you know, have you met each and every single requirement. So, for example, what we do there is we trigger this second agent, which understands the context of your primary agent. So if it's a marketing agent, it understands who that agent is, but it then doesn't use everything that was completed as the input to, is this correct? It takes the original requirements and then it checks them, you know, one by one. Is what I'm looking for in requirement 1 in the output, yes or no? Is what I'm looking for in requirement 2 in the output, yes or no? And then that agent's instructions are to generate corrections. So it's thinking, find mistakes, generate corrections. So anyway, that's just an example of, how we've built one of the back-end agents for you. So yeah, there's also, I think, if there's, again, throw in your comments if you have anything you'd like me to really dive deep into. Maybe just for interest's sake as of today, but this changes. At the moment, new models are getting released almost weekly, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. But at the moment, the best models for handling large context are the Gemini models. So for looking, for reading through your files, for handling the web queries and your email queries, we currently using the Gemini models. Reasoning currently is OpenAI, so the O series models, O3, O4, they're the best currently at reasoning, coming up with plans, evaluating plans, and those types of things. Okay, so one of the tools that I haven't included here is the data analysis. So your agents also have the capability, and I'm going to show an example now, to take in massive data file. Okay, so for example, I just wrote a Python script to create like a messy sample, like SAP maintenance data with like 60 rows by like 60 columns, like 120,000 rows. So it's like millions and millions of data points, which then, translates to like, I don't know, 14 million tokens if you try to pass that through to an agent. So your agents also have the capability to handle and create script Python code and then execute it in a secure environment to manipulate that data to find what you're looking for. So it streams in basically, if you'd like a temporary copy of what that data looks like. And then we've included libraries to manipulate that data, generate plots and things like that. And then what that agent will do is, so it'll take the first, it's like 20 rows or whatever the case is, and X amount of columns of data to get a feel for what the data looks like. And then it'll generate the code to, filter it or whatever the case is, manipulate it to generate the table or graphs or statistical analysis that you're looking for. And then what that agent can do is, when that result gets returned to the agent, if it is correct or if there's maybe some information missing, then the agent will iterate as required. But what we are seeing with the latest models is they more often than not on the first attempt are actually getting the data analysis pretty spot on, including the creation of plots, which then, get returned to you and displayed for you, etc., which I'll show you now. And at the moment, that's actually a combination of the O3 model and the GPT 4.1 model. So the O3 doing the strategy and the iteration, and then 4.1 just doing like the little sections or code snippets that get passed in. So yeah, that's a sort of high level of the tools and what the agents are doing in the back end. One of the new or updates is your agents can also now process and analyze audio, images, videos. As you saw earlier, I passed a MP4 video across to the agent, and they're able to analyze that for whatever you're looking for. So in our example, the agent would then extract the instructions. So it's like looking for text. Maybe you have a video where you're looking for a specific feature, whatever the case is. So when your agent is creating and triggering the back end file analysis agent, it passes a query across saying, this is what I'm looking for. This is how I want you to return the information to me, and so forth. And again, this all happens for you in the back end. As you've seen through the queries that I put through, we've tried to create the back end structures robust so that you don't need to be a prompt engineer. We test each of our various functions with as the worst prompts, the shortest prompts, the most vague prompts that we can think of to complete a specific task. And then in the back end, the agents, they figure out and they fill in the context to actually then go off and complete that task. So yeah, and all of this will be in the help menu. You'll be able to ask Sheldon. And yeah, let me know if there's any additional information you guys would like around how this works. Like I said, I've probably taken a 8-hour discussion and tried to squeeze it into a few minutes. So yeah, let's have a look. This is actually in one of the most incredible and a little bit scary responses that I've had to one of the benchmark questions from the GAIA. So it's the General AI Assistant benchmark. So I'm going to take you through this now. In fact, I'm going to let the agent take you through, and I'm going to give my comments as we go. So this is the research report that the agent generated when completing the question out of one of the benchmark tests. And this question is out of the tier 3, so it's supposedly the hardest level in this benchmark. And this is the response that it generated, which quite interestingly, or maybe a little bit scary, is when the agent was doing its research, it found other attempts to complete this question and, solve the questions in this benchmark, and then actually evaluated how well and evaluated how those attempts went and, what worked, what didn't work for the various attempts. And then a step further, which really shocked me, was the agent actually found a discussion where people were, trying to solve or solving this question. And then it actually evaluated the people. And something that I haven't seen before is it actually then, instead of just saying, okay, cool, this is the solution based on what this person said, it actually evaluated and identified where they went wrong and then completed the task and gave comments, etc. So it was incredibly impressive. So just some background on the question. So the question asks, which of the fruits shown in a specific painting were also served in the 1949 breakfast on a specific ship? And then it defines the way that the response must be returned in a specific list, in a specific order, as well as when it looks at the painting, it needs to go clockwise. So I'm going to let the agent read out just some of the key points, but you can obviously, if you want to, pause and read through this full response. So when the agents are executing web searches, so there's also just the web search button, so you can type in a query or whatever the case is, hit the web search button, and then the agents will go and execute. They'll run that custom Google search engine with that agent and generate the report for you. They also include all the links, so you can see there's inline links here which you can click and it'll take you through. Here's the main sites that we use to generate this report, and then you can also hit the display web links button, and then there'll be a list of the remaining websites that the custom search engine identified as the top. So it's the top 10 or top 15 websites that were found, but in this case it's a very specific question, so there's obviously not that many websites. I've got another example of a more general query where there's the full list of websites, but maybe just some background on this agent. So after creating the agent, I then asked the agent to update its framework, so the context, how the agent works, etc. And I explained to the agent, please have some attitude, be sarcastic if I ask you a stupid question, call it out, make the interactions engaging. So you'll see that come across in the response.
Hugging Face agent takes on GAIA benchmark, serves up fruit salad mystery. We're diving headfirst into the wild world of AI agents and a benchmark so tricky it makes finding matching socks look easy. Hugging Face, bless their open source hearts, decided to throw their hat into the ring against the big players like OpenAI and Microsoft on something called the GAIA benchmark. This report is going to unpack the drama, the tools, and the fruit-related enigma that serves as a prime example of just how complex these AI agent tasks can get. First off, let's talk about GAIA. No, not the Earth Goddess, but the General AI Assistant benchmark. GAIA specifically targets the areas where current LLMs tend to stumble: high-level planning and rigorous execution. Scoring well requires more than just spitting out facts. It requires a system that can think, sort of, act, and adapt. The question that launched 1,000 agentic steps. The specific question that forms the core of your query, and served as a prime example for the GAIA benchmark's difficulty, is a doozy. Okay, let's break down this multimodal, multitemporal, multi-everything nightmare. Multimodal mayhem. You need to identify fruits from an image. Not just any image, but one depicting a specific 2008 painting. Historical deep dive. You need to find the ocean liner used as a prop in at the last voyage. Because apparently, finding one piece of historical trivia wasn't enough. Culinary archaeology. Once you've found the ship, you need to locate its October 1949 breakfast menu. Because, naturally, everyone keeps meticulous digital records of decades-old cruise ship menus. This question is a perfect example of why GAIA is tough. It requires chaining together disparate pieces of information from different sources and modalities: image, historical records, menus, and then applying specific formatting rules based on visual information, clockwise.
So it's quite interesting here. Besides, obviously figuring out, what it needs to do or how it needs to approach the problem, but also then is actually analyzing the benchmark and what makes it difficult. It's analyzing, the types of tools that agents might need, which I thought was quite interesting.
Order. It's enough to make a human grab a real fruit salad and forget the whole thing. The Hugging Face team implemented a secure Python interpreter to execute this LLM-generated code, carefully controlling which functions and imports are allowed to prevent, AI-induced digital chaos, like deleting your files and replacing them with June fanfiction. Their agent system utilized several tools to tackle GAIA's challenges. Web browser, file inspector, code interpreter. The results: beating expectation, mostly. Solving the fruit mystery, based on human agents. All right, let's actually answer your question, using the detective work shared in the Ars Technica comments, which appear to have followed the steps required by the GAIA question. Identify the painting, embroidery from Uzbekistan, Air 2008. Identify the fruits in the painting. According to one user who linked to an image of the painting from the Dayton Art Institute, the fruits appear to be bananas, pears, pomegranate, and limes. Another user suggested watermelon and lemon instead of pomegranate and lime. Looking at the actual image, the fruits seem to be a slice of watermelon, pears, bananas, and lemons. Let's go with watermelon, pears, bananas, lemons for the fruits shown in the painting.
So that's pretty incredible. I mean, the agent sees, okay, this is what people did when they try to solve this problem in a specific blog that the agent found. But then it actually goes and then looks at the actual image and then, finds what the actual answer is, which I thought was pretty incredible. It's not just, returning back what it sees and assuming that it's correct or whatever the case is. it has that capability to actually analyze and, go that step further and ensure that the answer to the solution is correct. And maybe just while we're here, some of the additional tools. So in the web searching or the functionality or capabilities of that web search agent that gets triggered in the back end is obviously the agents can search the web, finds the top websites, goes to the websites, extracts whatever information it can or whatever information is relative to the question or task that's been solved. But that web search agent can also then take the links of images as well as PDFs. And if it needs to then download and read that PDF file to look for information, so it might be a lot of the questions are linked to research papers on archives or whatever the case is. So the agent will then find the specific website, and then when it's going through that web page, it extracts the links to any documents or images that are relevant, and then can trigger and find this similar approach or equivalent to how the file analysis works, where instead of passing one of your documents from the drives, it then downloads, in this case, this image and then analyzes the image.
Identify the ocean liner and menu. Compare fruits and find the overlap. Format the answer. Pears, bananas. So, despite the complexities, human agents in the R's Open Forum comments section managed to crack the code. Or, use web search and look at pictures. Conclusion. Through a combination of AI benchmark challenges and some diligent human web browsing, we've determined that the fruits from the painting a embroidery from Uzbekistan that also appeared on the October 1949 breakfast menu of the Isle de France, the ship from the last voyage, in clockwise order from 12 o'clock as they appear in the painting among the relevant fruits, were pears and bananas. It just goes to show, whether it's a multi-step AI agent or a human with a web browser, solving convoluted historical fruit puzzles is apparently peak performance.
So yeah, this was quite an interesting result or report that was generated to a question. So yeah, I'm actually interested. Let me know what you think in the comments around this type of answer. It's also now making it tricky to really run and complete the benchmarks without putting forward results that aren't a true reflection of the actual capabilities of the agents, because the agents are finding where people are discussing the benchmarks. A lot of the benchmarks are commented on. There's blogs, people are analyzing them, etc. So really what you need to do is look at the tools and capabilities that the agents need to complete the various tasks. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. What we've tried to do is make sure that whatever the key capabilities of the various benchmarks are, so like a random example that came up, which we then, I got one of my cloud agents that handles integrations to develop for us, is, for example, the capability to extract files out of a zip folder. It's an arbitrary thing that I didn't think of that came up in one of the benchmarks. So yes, now your agents can, if there's a zip archive that you want the agent to then extract files from, they can go off and do that. And again, what happens there is it'll extract the files from that archive, and then it'll return to the primary agent. It has the information of the files, and that agent can choose, this is the file I want you to read, or whatever the case is. So here's an example of when you execute a normal web search. So you, again, just type in whatever your query is, and then you can hit the web search button, and then the agent will go off and execute the web search and, return. So again, if you hit the display web links, you can see here's all the, the top websites that were returned. And again, the agent will then generate a report based on whatever the agent's context is as well. So the report will match what you're trying to achieve or what this agent generally works on. And, here's an example where I got the agent to have a look at the latest Google Gemini news. And then it, generated the report. Again, it's got the links to the various references. It also then includes, it can display the various images when applicable. So there's a few nice images of, this was, I think, we are one of the benchmarks, how this latest model is comparing to the others. So it, then builds it builds a full, it builds a nice report for you based on what you're looking for. So you can also customize these agents to return these reports, in different formats. Maybe you want a very short, to the point report, or, I like to have, nice full in-depth analysis. So you can just update the framework of the agent and say, when you return web searches, I just want, keep them to, a couple paragraphs, or maybe, return a full report, include the images. Maybe you want the agent to have, you don't want inline references, you want all the references at the bottom, whatever the case is. You don't even, like I say, you don't have to do that. It's, when you create the agents, they'll come with a pretty, a generic setup to complete all these types of tasks. But if you want something unique, again, you can just ask the agent, update your framework when you're doing web searches. I want it to look like this. And then, you can have a look at, whatever you searching for, whatever the case is. Okay, and you've got these are the websites that we use. There's some other websites, and, you can click it and go off to whatever you're looking for. So maybe just a quick example of just the image editing generation capabilities. So your agents, you can ask them to generate images for you. So you can describe the image, and the agents will generate the images for you. But we've also now included the capability to edit images, as well as edit images in reference to another image. So this was an image I got the agent to generate for me. And then we have our logo. So what I've done here is I've asked the agent to update our logo and update it based on the style of that universe, etc. So when the agent generates the updated image or edited image, it can then, reference, maybe you wanted to replace a section, and you wanted to replace a section of an image with something specific, whatever the case is. You can just share the files with the agent, or you can, drag and drop files into the, the text box, and then just ask the question in natural language. So again, you can see the query there is very short, and there we go. So we've got a updated image, and you can see now it's overlaid, or it's included the styling of that fancy universe image. And then you can download the full image. So when it returns the image to you, it gives you a scaled image. But you can also then download the full, which is like a couple megabytes image. So it's quite nice. It's quite a nice feature. Again, you don't need to be a prompt engineer. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need to understand how the tools work. You just explain what you want, and they'll go off and do that for you. So let's have a look now at how you can generate schedules that can run for you, for your various agents, how you can edit them, you can test them, etc. So here's an example where I've asked the agent, or I have my admin agent reads all multiple email addresses. So then it goes through and reads each of my email accounts for any of the new emails every morning. And then it extracts specific information for me. So there I've asked the agent now to, so I'm going to go back a little bit. So let me actually pause it here. So you can explain the workflow that you'd like the agent to create for you. So here I've explained, please create this workflow to read my email addresses. and then, when it should run. And then I've also asked the agent to, generate a consolidated table with key information, related to our application, or if there's anything, business related. And then I've also asked the agent to then actually email the consolidated table out to me every morning. So you can either manually type everything out, or you can just, give a overview explanation of what you want, the agent to do. And then you can hit the create workflow button. And then the agent will actually then create that structured workflow and update it for you. So while the agent's off doing that, I also have a workflow which does AI news research. So again, I just asked the agent to create the workflow for me. And then you can, at the bottom of each of your workflows, you can then set, here's the output section that I referenced earlier. So you can set, do you want the final result to be sent out as an email? Do you want it to be shared? So do you want that final result to then trigger one of your other agent tasks? So that's the share to team. So you can, again, just describe through natural language, share this result with my X agent and trigger their workflow that does Y. And the agent will figure out what to do and send that off. Or you can also include the update interface. So do you want this completed report, completed task to then be used to update one of your custom interfaces? So if you think back to that like deep research example I gave, maybe this AI weekly updates and news report would then get sent to that interface and, trigger an agent to then actually update that interface, and, it'll slot everything in there. Then you can set, do you want this to run daily, weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, whatever the case is, day, time, whatever. And then once you hit activate, then this workflow will happen based on that interval. So here we can have a look at, what my, I have an agent that, each week looks for any updates in any of the top model providers, or their SDK, so like the way that we interact with the models. And then it generates that report for me. And then it's actually even included some code snippets of things that have changed. I mean, I'm not going to read the massive report to you. But yeah, so that's how these workflows then, run. And they'll, then this runs every week. Finishes on a Sunday. Every Monday, I'll then, have a look at that. Is there anything we need to action, and so on. There we go. So this agent now has created the workflow to read my email addresses, and then we pause it there. Maybe, as you can see, it's then included. Okay, cool. It's going to send the email, where it's from, where it's going to. Needs to happen daily, 4 a.m. So then once you have a workflow, you've created it. Again, you can also then edit this, which is quite nice. If there's things that you want to tweak, change, etc., you can actually go through and see what the instructions are and edit them as you need. So once you're happy with that, if you click the verified button, then this workflow becomes a workflow that is able to be triggered, whether it's by one of your other agents. So as you click the verify button here, then, the other agents will see, okay, cool, this agent has this specific workflow. If, you have a specific task that then would trigger this. And then if you hit for your cyclic or scheduled workflows, so like daily, weekly, whatever the case is, you click the active button. And then once you've activated it, then that workflow will execute based on that schedule moving forward. So what's quite nice about the way we've implemented this is, so here it's built the workflow. So then you can actually run it and test it. So, okay, so you can run it and see, is the result what you're looking for? Do you want to tweak it, etc., before making it active, and so on. So yeah, I'm not going to go through the rest of the video. I think that kind of I think that basically covers it. You can also create workflows just on demand, so they don't have to be scheduled. So you can either trigger by just hitting the run button, or can then be triggered by other agents. So, yeah, that's it for, it's literally as easy as that to then generate workflows that happen. So this again is probably a 2-day discussion, but this is just a sort of a visual representation, a high level of what the memory looks like, the way we've developed the memory in the back end. So as your agents as you start using the agents, they then will start to build their short-term memory, their long-term memory, what are their priorities, whatever, they build this entire memory structure. And we've created the way that it's updated and interacted with to mimic the way that our human memory works. So where this differs to like your, let's say, standard RAG or just saving everything that ever happens is when your agents, let's take a task such as, let me think of a nice example. Okay, well, let me just take one of our coding agents. Okay, so as we are building our application, I have front-end agents that handle certain sections, back-end agents that handle certain sections. But obviously, as the code develops and as the application grows, changes, etc., that code or those functions obviously adapt, update, etc. So what was a fact let's say 3 months ago, at this stage, it's busy, it's updating itself very quickly. What was a fact maybe 2 weeks ago of how a specific part of the application worked that the agent would then need to remember or would be in its memory isn't relevant anymore, right? So the next time the agent was busy updating that specific, let's say, section of code or functionality, it's also then updating that memory for that piece of knowledge, okay? And then it integrates the latest information with the historic information to keep a relevant, live, efficient, updated memory for that specific section. So that's really in a high level. I don't know if I explained it very well. There's very fancy professors that explain it much better, and there's links on our channel to some of them discussing how that all works. But yeah, that's really a high level sort of overview of how we've built the memory structure on the back end. So, and where that starts to really feature is as you work. So if again, I take my back end agent that's handling the integrations, obviously I've been, that agent does a lot, right? It's updating to different sections, interacting with data structures, the APIs, etc. So the more that agent has it's built a full understanding of the context, the environment, the priorities that it works in. So now that agent can start suggesting and executing changes or creating suggested updates, etc., by itself, because it understands exactly the context that it's working in, both in terms of like the facts of what it needs to do, as well as priorities, strategies, and that type of thing. So yeah, that's a 30-second overview of a 2-day discussion. So yeah, if you'd like to pause, you can just, this is literally just the key memory sections that form part of our memory, which we've then mirrored across to the agent's memory. So let's have a look at the competition that we're running, as well as how you can get started and get going to deploy agents to start working for you. You can head across to our website and then hit the subscribe button, and you can register either with your email address and password, or your Google account or Microsoft account. And then you can, have a look at the application, see how it looks, feels, and so on. And then you can head across to the account page and then choose one of the subscriptions that best suits your needs, what you're trying to achieve, what you would like to do. And then what we're doing as part of this launch for the next couple of days, so just for the remainder of May, is to get as many of you using and get this technology into your hands. We're running the professional and the new ultimate package at a discounted rate just for the remainder of May. So then you can subscribe to either the professional package or the ultimate package. And that will be the price for then, as long as you use the service until you cancel your subscription. So it's really a great, great bargain. So if you're interested and you want to start using the latest technology, the latest models, as well as the capabilities and agentic capabilities framework and so on that I've taken you through, head across to our website, hit the subscribe button and register for one of the packages. So our professional package is the package where you can then start creating these custom agent interfaces for each of your agents. So on the professional package, you can create up to 40 agents. So you can have 40 of those agents working for you, with each of the agents having 2 custom interfaces for that specific agent, and then obviously multiple workflows and so forth. And then if you head across to the ultimate package, you can have up to 60 agents working for you, with all of the packages are using all the latest models. And in fact, this is going to change in the next few days. Again, there's a new Gemini model that has come out. We're busy testing, and that will then slot in. That'll be in all 3 packages. And yeah, let's see what you guys are doing. So if we head across then to the competition, so what we'd like to see is how you are deploying these agents to make your life better, to streamline your business, to streamline whatever the case is. We'd like to see these custom interfaces that you're creating, how you maybe linking them to each other, the workflows that you've set up that your agents are just running and doing for you. So take a video, show us what you've created, show us, how you've solved a problem, made your life better, made somebody else's life better. I'm going to also do a couple of videos where I'm going to show all the interfaces that I'm currently using, maybe not all of them, some of the ones that I can share, of, how I'm using the agents, how they're, handling certain parts of my business, my daily life, for example, my calendar and things like that. And then, upload the videos to YouTube. And then the top 3 videos with obviously the highest views, so the most engagement in the community, as well as the most helpful use cases that we see, something, exciting, something different, something that can, lots of people can adapt and can ideally make their lives better, make their work easier, quicker, whatever the case is. We're going to choose the top 3 people that submit these videos, and you can submit as many as you like. So if you make, 10 custom interfaces that have complete applications, you can submit them all, and we're going to choose the best 3, and those will get a free subscription to the ultimate package for the remainder of 2025. So you will get full access to exorbitant amount of compute, 60 agents, millions and millions and millions of tokens each day, each month, with, as I said, the top models for free for the rest of the year. And so no pressure also to those winners. We'd like to contact you again in a few months' time. So hopefully you've used that then to either create a unicorn, or ideally made you a lot of money, or made your life better, made your professional life better, we'd like to see how you've used this technology to stand out in your maybe at your career, at your job, or maybe if it's your family, maybe you've created an application to help, tutor your children, and so on, whatever the case is. So the submission deadline is the 31st of May. So the videos need to be uploaded by the end of May. And then we'll obviously go through them. Well, I'm going to get my agents to go through them. And then I'll also have a look and see. And we'll choose the top 3 best applications and use cases. And you'll win the ultimate package for the remainder of 2025. So yeah, I'll get going. We're excited to see and hear from you. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's anything you'd like us to share. I'm going to be creating, definitely hit the subscribe button. If you're interested and if you're using the application and want to see the latest advances. As I said, at this stage, Sheldon I'm basically the limiting factor of how quick or the application and the capabilities are growing. Obviously, we want to make sure that it's beneficial. We test everything. We'll make sure that it's not going to have a negative impact on humanity and things like that. So, but yeah, definitely, I'm going to be posting a lot of content, showing all the different features as they come out. I'll do a few more videos, diving into some of the various sections, show you how I'm using Sheldon to create a full front end, back end, and so on. So yeah, I'm excited. Let's see what you guys can create.